Hi everyone, my name is Steve. You've seen me on Discord as Conceptia. Allow Spencer to introduce himself, please.
Hi, I'm Spencer. You may have seen me as Rage Quit on Discord. I run a small business called Time Paced Automation.
Very cool. Yeah, and we've been talking, and we thought it would be helpful, not to the least of us, myself, of course, being the to see some of the ways to use NoCode-X to build some of the functionality. And Spencer's going to show us a prototype, proof of concept, what have you, and walk through that. And what it will do is going to show you how he has populated a data table by first adding the columns, populating it with sample data, and then as you click on each row in the data table, a combination of the event and the action will update a detail template over to the right of the data table. And so he's just going to walk through how he built that, and I'll be asking questions along the way, possibly. All right.
Yes.
With that.
And we are starting with a completely blank slate here. This is a new application. There are no created templates, no data formats. Nothing is created yet at this point. So we're going to try to do everything from scratch. We'll see how it goes. We may run into some issues, but hopefully we can work through those as we go. The first thing I'm going to start off with is the template. So I'll create a template. Let's call it CRM dashboard and choose create template. I'm going to close that. And I want to use AI to generate a nicely designed page for me. So create a dashboard for CRM, including data table for user lookup, and say on the right side, a window for profile details. Let's see what that comes up with.
Okay, everyone, that's it. That's everything we need to do. So thank you all for joining. Hope this I think we'll be there one day.
if only it was that easy.
Yeah, we'll drop this prompt in the Discord channel, and you all can use the same thing to click it on that, right?
Oh, we got an error.
All right, here we go. And we've agreed, whoever's watching this, we've agreed that, we're going to show this thorns and all, to make this as realistic an experience as possible.
Error. Try just changing some keywords here. Maybe it's getting tripped up on certain words.
Okay. I remember hearing Tristan say, using the language, change this action. So if this doesn't work, maybe we can do, change this page so that, but try this first. Try your approach first.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Huh. Okay. I think I'm gonna try.
Just getting errors.
Interesting.
Do you want to try from your end? Maybe it's a permissions issue.
Yeah, I think I will. You started at, where'd you start from? Templates or?
Yes.
Okay.
We're in a template called CRM dashboard. While you do that, I'm going to try generating some data, because we also need a data format for a user. We'll call it user.
Okay.
Say this is Actually, let's do it from text. Create a user. Data object. Get to properties, first name, last name, gender, lead source, profile image, and country. Watch this loading indicator. Hopefully that will complete.
Okay. So
okay, did pretty well here.
You said the name of that application is CRM. What's it called again?
The template is called CRM Dashboard. The application is called Demo001.
Okay, yeah, I see Demo001. And weird. Okay, when I select Demo001, all of my navigation menu icons go away except for the hub, except for the plugins, rather.
Okay, so I need to give you permissions to this application.
Yep. Okay, good thing to have learned.
I'm going to pause sharing for just a moment.
Okay.
All right, try refreshing it. See if you have those buttons now.
Okay. Oh yeah. One. Oh, it's crazy. It's like instantaneous. I haven't even refreshed yet. Let's see if that.
Okay.
Yeah, CRM dashboard. But I'm going to refresh because I'm old school and paranoid. And I've been hurt before. All right, Demo001. Okay, I see CRM dashboard. And okay.
So I'm going to keep talking through this data format that I'm creating here. I see it's created gender and lead source as single select options. I don't want that. I want those to be more simple. So I'm going to delete those and recreate them manually as text. So we're adding a new property for this data format. This one's called gender. The type is text. Similarly for lead source, type to be text. I don't think there's any way currently to just update one of these objects that already has been created.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to delete it and recreate it in this manner.
Yep.
Right,
and that, actually, speaking of that, I was trying to figure out, you know what, I don't want to distract us. We'll talk about that another session. So
okay,
keep going.
All right, so now that we have a data format built, this is very basic. Now we need to create some data. And fortunately, we can just create some test data very easily. I may have done that too fast. Let me go back. On the left side, click data, or press Alt-D on the keyboard, bring up the data window. Then you can click create or create new data. And then you get the three options here, and test data for data format will create test data for you. And then you can select the data format, which we just created, that is user. Now we describe the test data set. I want, let's just say 5 users with various names. environment is development right now, and click save. Then we'll watch our loading indicator at the bottom right and hope that it finishes. Did you have any luck, Steve, with trying the AI?
I did. I didn't remember exactly what you typed, so I typed something different, and it created it, and so you'll see it. And then I'll put the prompt I use in chat if you have a way to bring that up, just so everyone can see what I typed. But what it says right now is, create a web page that will have a data window. Oh, does it show it right there? Let's see, create a website. Yeah. Okay, that's what I typed right there. Create a web page that will have a data window element and a detail page to the right of the data window. And yeah, pretty cool.
Nice. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll come back to the template in just a moment. Let's continue with the test data. Opening up the data window again, we'll see 5 items. These are the 5 test users that it created. Probably no reason to create more than that, but you can continue creating test data if you need more than that.
Mm-hmm.
For example, testing out paging. Let's take a look at one of these. We see all of these properties filled in. Looks good. That's a really convenient feature to be able to create test data like that.
Very cool. Yep.
All right, so we've got the data format.
If I can also say, when you're ready, let me go ahead and walk people through this layout here. But when you're ready, okay, let me know.
I'll make it just a little bit smaller so it all fits on the screen.
Yep.
And you prefer borders off, so I'll go ahead and turn the borders off for you.
Yes. And I know Tristan made a change where it'll remember this setting finally. So I found out this morning. I logged in and opened up my window, and there are no borders, and I just sat and took a moment. I was like, thank you, Tristan.
Very nice. Yes.
Sent good wishes to him. But yeah, is now a good time? Should I walk through it now?
Sure.
Okay. Now, ironically, I'm going to ask you to turn the borders back on, because actually, you know what? I tell you what. Maybe I'll tell you what. Hover over it. Maybe it's probably better. So, first thing I think that would be helpful to note is that something that took me a minute to realize was that there's a design pattern. The vertical list container and the horizontal list containers are used to help lay out the elements that you're going to use on your page in a logical and organized manner. So the vertical list containers is exactly what it sounds like. You add elements or template components to it, and it'll lay them out top to bottom, and you can set how much spacing is between each element or component as well. And then, horizontal layout container is exactly what it sounds like. Same thing except left to right or right to left. And then the other thing to be aware of is that you can nest these. So sometimes when you want elements to appear side by side, our common pattern is to put them in a horizontal element, and we'll show it later. But there's a option to have them, there's I think it's called space in between, where there will be one element on the far left, another element on the far right, and then I think it's down horizontal alignment. I think, or it's vertical. Yeah. So if you do vertical alignment, that right there. Space between, that one basically puts them at each end of the container. So in the horizontal layout container, they'll be at the far left and far right, etc. But the point I'm making is that you can have, for example, a horizontal list container with maybe a text box, and then another element to the right of that, and then put that inside of a vertical list container. And then that's, like I said, a good way to start kind of structuring your window, to make it nice and organized. So in here, the topmost, would you mind showing the navigator panel? You have it open right there. So on the left there, navigator panel, you see that main layout container with those 2 horizontal bars. That's your vertical layout container right there. Vertical list container, excuse me. And then, as you see, there's nested elements underneath that.
That one is actually the horizontal list.
That's a horizontal one. Okay, gotcha.
The main layout container is horizontal.
Yes. Thank you. Yep. And so that, again, that's a common pattern here for these apps as well, is for the main window to have the horizontal list, and then to have nicely sized vertical list nested inside of that, because that's how you get these structured or different sections of the main window here. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. But you can see there's a data table there with the title element there, and then there's a horizontal divider. And then you saw as Spencer was hovering over the data table, a row selection was starting to pop up. And yeah, I think now Tristan's going to show the logic, that happens between those two elements or two sections. All right, back to you, Tristan.
I appreciate you getting me confused with Tristan, but I'm not that smart.
You're pretty smart.
I don't know the platform as well as he does.
Well, yeah, he is the maker of it, so.
All right, well, with this data table, first we need to load data into this data table. So we want to load the 5 test records that we created. I'll just call them records. Mm-hmm. So to do that, we need to go to this button up here, template settings, and add an action. So we go to actions, and then we'll click this create action button. This creates an unnamed action. Now we edit the action, and I'll hit save on this window. Now we are in an action. I don't like it being named unnamed action. That's not descriptive enough. So we will name this OnLoad CRM dashboard. You can always change the icon. I'll do that later. I need to change it on this one.
If you're not a developer, calling events by OnLoad, OnClick, OnClose, that's a very common terminology, if you will, for events as well.
So there are 2 ways to load data into a data table, at least that I'm aware of. The easiest way is with this one, add list of objects to data table. And we don't have any list of data yet, so we need to go get the data. Search for data, and we will choose fetch a list of data records. With this function, I will connect it from the start node. With this fetch a list of data records function, we can choose the data format that we want to fetch. Page is the number of the page to fetch. We can leave that at the default. Amount per page is an important setting. It will only retrieve this many records. So if you have a lot of data and want to be able to search all of it at once in your website, you need to increase this. It's not, there isn't any way that I know of at this point to implement dynamic paging. So this just has to be a large number to load all the data in at once. And of course, we only have 5 records, so changing this from 10 to 10,000 isn't going to make any actual difference right now. But that is all we need to change in this one. And by the way, at the end here, you see the variable name. This is the name of the output item from this function. So that's important. We need to make note of that. I'll copy it. Now we can use the add list of objects to data table function. I'll connect those. And once it loads here, we can select the data table that is in the template. So a lot of terminology there.
Yep.
But Steve, just let me know if I need to
no worries.
go over something else.
I tell you what, just in case it helps, how do you define template? Because That word is so common here. It's
Template, as I'm using it, is just anything that shows up under templates.
Okay.
Here.
Fair enough. All right.
So really it's, I guess in NoCode-X, it's a design page.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be an accurate description
Okay.
of a template.
Okay. Yeah, I've been thinking of it as akin to a window, like in Windows development. And then, of course, you can put elements on top of that window or
Sure.
template as well. So, okay. So just a canvas on which to place elements.
Yeah, I guess the only difference between a window that I see is that you can also put a template directly on another page
Yes.
or as part of another page. So
Yep.
just a little
Exactly.
technicality. All right, adding a list of objects to a data table. So we've selected the data table. Now we need to select the objects that are loaded into the data table. So we select the found data item that was specified in the previous function, and clear data table that does not need to be set. So at this point, we should be good to test this out. Test it out. I need to disable authentication and run the page. All right, so it's done something, but it's not what we expect. So let's make one change here, or a couple changes. The data table, when it's created, has some default columns and rows. We don't need these because we're loading the data dynamically. So let's delete all of these. And we do have a message that is defined when there are no results. So I've just changed that. I'm going to go switch back to the preview of this page and press F5 to refresh the page. And here's our data.
Okay. And why didn't it show up before? Because the columns weren't matching up? Is that what happened?
It had these default columns and rows that were defined, and that was interfering somehow with the way this function loads the data.
Okay.
Probably technically because the columns that were originally set don't match the properties in our JSON object.
Okay.
So that's the easy way of loading data. Steve, what do you think? Should I go through the other method?
I would say let's go breadth first. So, we'll do the easy way, show it working with this, and then maybe in another video or time permitting, show the hard way. But I would start with this. Just do the functionality first, meet the requirements.
All right. So yeah, this method works really well for simple data objects. If you have more data than what you want to show in the data table, then you have to use a different method to load the data. Otherwise, it's going to load all of that complex data in the data table. And there's no control right now, and I think this may be added at some point, but there's currently no option within this function to choose which columns to show or hide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on. Here's the data table. We need to add an action on click. So under actions, I will click create action. And again, it's created an unnamed action. Let's edit the action and change the name under info, the start node, to OnClick data table row. I'm going to change the icon, this one. I'd like to use something that somewhat represents the function that we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me go back actually and take a look at this template because I need to see the design of the page. Here's a little tip. You see when I clicked on the template, it loaded just a black screen.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, I have to click on the eye and click center, bring it back. so we have some inputs. Basically, I'm looking for where we want to display the data right now.
So when you click on it, when you click on the data table row, you're trying to figure out where to display it over here on the right side. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just
Okay.
Visually, where does it make sense to
Yep.
display the item from the data table row?
Okay.
We don't really have items over here that make sense for us, so I'm just going to change these.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll click on this one, and let's call this name. It's a placeholder of unknown. Hopefully that displays correctly once it's previewed. This one says name. Let's use what else do we need to display here? First name, last name, profile image, lead source, gender, country. Let's go with country. This is an input. I usually don't work with inputs. I would usually put a text field here.
Delete it. Remember, the AI just put this on here based on the prompts. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and delete one and go ahead and replace it with a realistic one.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, here's a text field. So let's put lead source. Lead source. Delete the placeholder. And we do have an image here. This is just pulling in something from another site. It's fine. Yeah, I guess I'll leave that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's enough.
Yeah,
we can work with this.
Yep.
So just want to change the code of this one. I didn't modify this yet to name. Makes sense with the data that we're going to put in there. Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got a name, a country, a lead source. We'll populate this data and then maybe do something with the image as well. All right. OnClick data table row, we want to let's take a look at the start node. So we've got these bits of data that are automatically created when we created this action for the OnClick data table row function.
Sorry, can I for 1 second?
The row.
Let me just make sure everyone knows where we are. So you have the data table, and then you have it populated with data. And then what you've done a second ago is over in the detail pane on the right, you kind of created the landing area, if you will, for the data. So you put placeholders in the appropriate text box, and that's where the data will be displayed. And so now you're creating the connection between those two, if you will, the logic that's going to make that happen. That's going to take data from the data table and put it in the appropriate place in the detail pane. Correct? Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, so the row code, the column code, those are just what the user actually clicks on, not really relevant to what we're trying to do. The row data object, however, has everything from the row. So this is important, but we also want to add some parameter selections. And let's change this actually from free input to parameter input and add parameters to this row data object. The reason I'm doing that, we've got an unknown error occurred. Hopefully that doesn't mess this up.
I'm checking. Famous
We'll
last
see.
words. No, we're still up. So it should be okay.
So I actually need to see how it's passing that information into this object. So let's do this first. Let's write it out to the log and take a look at the object.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take this write to application log function, connect that from the start node again, this unknown error.
Hey, why don't you close this? I don't know because I want to make sure it's saving and everything. Why don't you go and close this and then reopen it and make sure that we're still good.
Let's just
or refresh it.
Switch back and forth. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's saving anything. Nope, it's not.
Yeah, because that is the OnClick Datatable row.
Let me try adding that function again.
Okay. If that doesn't work, then let's try something.
I think it's okay now. There is something that happens when we're adding parameters.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting that last night as well.
Okay.
Adding parameters, that message started coming up, and I was able to continue, but I did the same thing of just checking to make sure it was saving properly.
Yeah.
I think so I want to write the row object, the row data object to the application log, just to see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in NoCode-X is saving kind of persistently, so or on an ongoing basis. So as you see that indicator, it's saving each time that comes up where it should be.
And for
all right, I'm going to refresh this page.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Stu.
I was just going to say the logging technique is very, very useful when you want to just kind of examine, what you're operating on, basically to see if you're actually getting the right piece of data that you think you are or not. So
yes.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to click on this first row, and you saw that indicator show up again. Now, if I go back to the application logs, we can see what this object looks like. So we've got a JSON object with a property called first name.
Can you toggle that switch on the far
image.
left? Toggle right there. Make it expand that row. There you go. Mine usually shows more than that. Okay, it shows the entire object there. Sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we need to add parameters for first name, last name, profile image. Essentially, this is exactly the same actually as the data format. So I just wanted to make sure that we're creating the correct parameters. Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and disconnect this because we don't need to see that anymore. And when it is disconnected, it's inactive, I guess. It's not going to write to the application log anymore. Mm-hmm. All right, back into the start node and the row data object. Let's add a parameter. This one will be, there it is again, see?
Yeah.
As soon as I started this.
As soon as you said
text
parameter.
and first name. So let me just try adding one and switching out and going back in. Let's see if that one's saved. Looks like it did, so I think we're okay to continue. Add another parameter in this object that is text, last name. Another one, this is a bit hard to look through sometimes. Mm-hmm. Text, and it's just lead source. Well, let's double check in the data format. Lead source, gender, country, profile image. Okay, let's add just profile image and country. We're not going to do anything with gender in this app. Okay. Add a parameter. Collapse that, expand this. Actually, the profile image is a URL. So we'll choose the same type here. One more parameter for country. The input type maybe could have been.
Maybe say again. The input type what?
Data. I was thinking this input for the object. Maybe we could have selected data format input and just chosen user. That would have actually been faster.
Okay.
But this is sometimes necessary, so I guess it's okay that I showed all that.
Okay.
All right. We have these parameters now available in the OnClick action. So we need to start setting those in the text, and those are text input fields, and we have one text element. So I'm just going to drag all of these out and connect them.
And this is where we actually populate the fields in that detail pane.
Oh, we only have one of these, lead source.
So that lead source is a text element that's on the main window. And that since we just selected. Okay.
Text field. But that is the only text input field that we had. I thought we had.
Oh, you know what? Because I think one was a layout. So that's what I noticed earlier. So you on your functions, you have form versus layout. One says set text on text element versus a value of a text input field. Try dropping. Which one do you not have on there? Try adding that. Do you have both?
We have both here actually,
okay.
And neither one is showing the first name or last name input fields.
Yeah,
as I expected.
That's what type of field they are, or type of element they are.
Okay, center it again.
No borders.
This is input field.
What type though? It just says input field?
Well, yes. Input
Okay.
field.
I think that's why then we have to. So
oh, it's a specifically input. We need to look for input.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I did learn that the type of element matters. So there's set value of input field. If you go up, yeah, one more, right there. Try that one, please.
This one. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I haven't worked with forms. All of these are form elements, so not as familiar with these. Yep. Here's name and country. Those are the ones that we needed.
Yeah.
All right. Add one for each. I think this was unnecessary. Get rid of that. May have been too far. Try that again. Okay. This might be a good time to say, never click on this button.
Public service announcement.
Never use the arrange blocks hierarchically option unless you want to recreate everything in your action.
All right, what I learned though is if you arrange it manually and then never use that button, it'll stay. So what happens when you click it, it'll lay it out like this. But if you then click off and then click back onto this, it'll be in disarray, so to speak. And you'll have to manually, straighten it out. Once you manually straighten it out, if you don't touch that auto layout button again, you should be fine. That's what I've experienced.
All right, one one last thing we need to add here is for the image, and we want to set the.
I tell you what, before you do image,
URL.
do you mind just going ahead and running it as is? Let's just see the text first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. We can start there.
Okay. We're keeping everyone in suspense.
Okay. Refreshing the page. All right, we've got name, lead source, all of that. Here we click the button, and what do we have?
Lead source.
We don't have a
change.
name.
Okay.
We have the lead source changing. We don't have the country changing. Let's look at this. We didn't tell it to put anything there. That's why.
Yeah. Wow, even with peer
This
programming,
is-
we missed that. With two sets of eyes.
This is, let's do the country first. That'll be the easy one. Just need to find that in the scope. Select it. Just to prove that out, let's refresh the page. Click around. Now we see the country. Okay.
Nice.
The name, though, is a combination of first and last name. A couple different ways we could do this. We could do concatenate. We could do replace placeholders. Steve, your call.
There's not a yeah, it's called replace placeholders, right? Where you can just put the variables. Yeah, let's do that. I think that's probably the most efficient and most.
I would prefer this one too. It's a little bit more flexible.
Yeah.
So right there, by the way, if you didn't see, I went too fast again. When I dragged this, let me just do it again. Dragging this over into a blank space, and then I need to add it in between these two. I'm going to click and drag so that the line turns blue, and then it is positioned where it needs to be in between those other actions. All right, replace placeholders. So here we have a blank text field, and for placeholders, you use double curly brackets. We haven't defined what these placeholders are yet, so I'm just typing this in from what I'm going to be setting at the moment. The placeholders here is where we define what these are. Click add a placeholder. The field name is what I've typed here, so first name. And the value of that is the row data first name. Let's add another placeholder, which is last name. And the result, again, this is important, full name. Copy that. That's what we want to select now in our scope. From our scope. Okay. Now that that's set, go back here, hit refresh. And now we've got names being populated.
Very cool.
It's pretty nice.
So give a brief, if you don't mind, just recap of that. So you click on the data table row, and this action gets called. It pulls the values from the row. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Please go ahead and give a recap if you don't mind.
Yeah. From this row data object, that's where it's getting the information that we are then setting in these input fields. Yeah, so then in the input field actions, we can choose those items that were passed through the row data object.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
And now we can do something with the image. Got to center it again. This image, though, is too wide.
Too weird as
So
well.
I want to... Let's... Actually, why is it this wide? That's not 200 pixels. Oh, that's the height.
I do the exact same
Get
thing.
this backwards. Okay.
I do the exact same thing every time. Like, wait.
Let's make it 300. And image, I don't want cover, I want scale down. I'm going to, let me pause the screen just for a moment so I can see what I'm sharing before I do it. Okay. I'm actually just going to upload some media really quickly here.
Okay.
So there is a media option on the left panel where you can just browse to image files on your computer and upload them into NoCode-X. That's what I'm doing right now. It's just adding a few different images that we can use. Just going to add 3 images. And then we'll have to, I actually need to modify the user object to reference this.
We can't, by the way, if you're are you showing something or meaning to be showing something?
I was not yet.
Okay.
I was still uploading these.
Okay.
So just to talk through what I just did, I went to media and I clicked create and then browsed to these 3 different images and uploaded these into this application.
Okay.
Each media image has an ID here, and this is well, we can use that. There are a few different ways to load an image. First of all, it can be statically set. If you pick it, we can use a URL or SVG. I guess that's just a text field where you can enter in the SVG data. In this case, I'm going to use URL, and so to get the URL, I'm just going to right-click and choose copy image address. And then I want to associate that with a particular user. So let's go into the data, choose our first user here, and change the profile image to that URL.
Okay.
And then hit save. And let's do that 2 more times. So let's grab this one, choose our next user, and set the profile image to that URL. Okay, so now we have some valid images for 3 of our users.
Okay.
And we want to set the image URL of an image component. By the way, if you were associating IDs with the media ID of the image, you can use this other function, set the media library image of an image component. To show you real quickly what that looks like, it takes an image ID, set the component. Straightforward.
Okay.
So the component is, of course, our only image component or image element on the page. And then the URL is going to be from the scope. Let's see, are we pulling that in? Not seeing it. Maybe we didn't pull that in yet. Oh, I'm in the OnLoad. That is not where I need to be. Okay, deleting that. Let's go over to the OnClick Datatable row function.
Okay. Gotcha.
Or action, rather. again, set image URL. Attach that, choose our component element, the image, and then the image URL from the scope. That should be all that we need to. Let's hit refresh and test it out.
There we go.
So now we get, see, this one may not have had one. This one has an image. Here's our third one with an image.
Very cool.
Did it always have this? I guess it did have the, it's just a longer URL. That's why it looks different to me right now. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that this screen isn't, or that section isn't as wide as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Very nice.
This is pretty good. Should we add a button like I showed you earlier, or is this enough, do you think, Steve?
I would, let's stop there. And then,
okay.
Yeah, in our next video, we'll show about adding a button and how you can add more functionality using that. And then maybe we'll introduce an AI call or something because of course AI, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's not a real app if it doesn't include an AI call. So
these days, that's true.
All right. If you're watching this, let us know what else you'd like to see. And of course, we're always on the channel, sadly. I think that's actually true. I said that unconsciously and realized how true it was. But yeah, thanks for watching and thanks for your time, Spencer. I really appreciate it.